What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Clayton, CACCIA Outdoors. It's been a while since we posted one of these long form videos, so we're back to it. Today I'm out in some national forest. I'm out here in the Sierras and I'm gonna do some on location archery shooting, archery practice. So while I'm out here practicing, I thought I would film some of it and then share some archery tips I have and show you my setup. We've had a lot of questions, people asking what's your setup, what's your archery setup, your bows, your arrows. So today I'm going to show you mine. So to start things off, this is my release. This is the Wise Guy Keep Hammering Cam Hanes Edition release. I really like this release. It's really comfortable. The padding around here is soft. You can wear it all day without getting that pilling you get from some of those leather straps. This is like a soft synthetic, and it has the boa strap, which I really like. The only downside to it is when you put the release on and you go to tighten it up, you never know exactly where you were last time you put it on. So you're kind of tightening it up to feel, whereas you know when you close the clasp on a buckle release, it's the same cinch point every time. But with the boa, you don't know exactly where it is. You kind of just have to feel. I like to pull on it a little bit and see where it extends to and where it comes in my hand. And that's where I know, okay, this is pretty much where I am, where I like to shoot, the tension that I like. Because you're gonna have that tension pulling back when you pull your string. So that's about where I like it. Let's go put the target out and do some shooting. Starting with some flatland shooting. And then as I go through this, I'm gonna do some uphill, some downhill, some situational stuff. I'm gonna guess this is 24 yards. 25, it's pretty close. That's money. I don't like to shoot too close, too much, so what I'm gonna do is go get my target and move it back to those split trees back there. That should be another 15 or 20 yards, and I'll put several shots downrange on that one. All right, so before I put some more arrows downrange, I'm just gonna show you what I'm working with. So my arrows are full length. I have a 32-inch draw, so it's pretty long. And I'll talk about my bow in a second, but my arrows are the Easton Axis match grade 5mm. I like the smaller diameter. I used to have the gold tip. They are the slightly larger diameter, and they were great arrows, but I like the flight and impact of the smaller diameter, the 5mm. I just feel like they fly a little bit flatter and they punch a little harder. So I'm using 100 grain field tips, but I also use 100 grain broadheads. I use a Muzzy trocar. And then I have a helical fletching, of course, which if you don't have a helical or offset fletching, that is a must. It's gonna slow down your arrow just a little bit because you have a little more drag, but it makes that arrow spin. So if you're somewhat new to archery and you're not familiar with your arrow's flight patterns and how your fletchings affect the flight pattern, a straight fletching will allow your arrow to fly a little bit faster. It reduces drag. However, your offset fletching, I don't know if you can see that very well, but if you look straight on, you'll see the fletchings are offset just a little bit. And what that does is when your arrow is released, it's making the arrow spin. So your flight is more consistent and it's flatter. I've watched guys shoot at 40 to 50 yards with straight fletchings, and they're kind of all over the place. You put an offset fletching on your arrow, your flight pattern is much truer to your aim. So if you don't have that on your arrows, definitely get an offset or helical fletching. So for my bow, I bought this a few years ago. This is the Hoyt Redworks RX1, the carbon. So I think they're on like the RX4 or 5 by now, maybe 6. I don't know, I haven't kept up, but at the time, they had just come out with the RX series, and I still love this bow. I'm not looking to replace it, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm not like a bow nerd to where I needed to try out every single bow on the market. I knew that I was gonna get a high quality bow with this, and I know like Matthews makes great bows. There's some other ones out there that I'm sure are just as good, maybe even better. I was just really happy with this, so I didn't feel like I needed to shop around. It felt great. The weight, it's carbon, of course, so it's really light. And I'm using the Tight Spot quiver. Holds 5 arrows and just pops off and on. The Hoyt quiver, I wasn't a big fan because it stays on, so it's stationary. I like to pop mine off. I don't like to put my bow in my bag with the quiver on. So I pop it off, put it in a separate compartment. I like to keep it separate. So this bow, like I said, this is the Hoyt Carbon RX1, but this is the Ultra edition. I don't know if you can see that, the Ultra. The reason I went with the Ultra is this was the only RX series bow that had the 32-inch draw capability. So the others were a little bit less, and I've got long arms, so I needed that extra draw length. And this is a 70-pound pull, and the feet per second are in the 300s. I haven't had it measured in a long time, but they're somewhere in the 300s feet per second. I'm using a CBE Tech Hybrid Pro 3-pin sight. So you got that right there. My stabilizer is a Spider. It's also carbon fiber. And I've got the Hoyt fall-away rest right here. And if you're not shooting with the wrist sling, I highly recommend that. You want that wrist sling because when you release your arrow, you don't ever want to be gripping your bow. So you'd like to be able to shoot ideally with your hand completely relaxed. So if you don't have that wrist sling, then you always feel like you're just going to drop your bow if your wrist is loose. But you want that wrist loose. So you would ideally be able to open your hand and shoot like that and let the bow just fall away after you release your shot. If you ever watch Olympic archers, professional archers, that bow, when they release their shot, just falls forward, and that's what you want. Any sort of tension or torque on the handle with your offhand, not your shooting hand, is going to provide a little bit of twist and torque on your shot, and it could wind up giving you lift. So what happens with a lot of guys, they'll grip it and their bow comes up instead of forward, and so it kicks that arrow as it's being released, and it throws off your accuracy big time. All right, let's do a little more shooting. All right, I've got my target set up back there. It's always good when you're in the field and you're shooting. When you're not, like in your backyard, in a controlled environment, when you're out here like this in the woods, you've got a lot of high contrast, so you can see the shadows, the bright spots, and it can throw off your depth perception just a little bit. So if you're ever in a spot where you need to guess the distance when you're archery shooting, which is never ideal, but it's good to practice. So I always like to, before I take a range, I like to guess what it is, and it gets my brain used to, okay, that I can see that's that distance. I'm gonna measure it, see if I'm close, and it gets my brain used to what those look like out in the field in real conditions. So I'm gonna guess that is 48 yards. See, I was off, it's 40, so I would have shot too long. So it's good to get out in these conditions and check ranges as you're shooting, get used to it. Money. I'm gonna throw a few more down there and see if I can get tighter. That one's money. That one looks a little better, still a little left. So like we talked about earlier, it's important to get out in these types of conditions, the type of conditions where you'll actually be hunting, and do some target practice out there if you can. And one of the reasons why is a lot of times when you're spot and stalking animals, the reason why is you're gonna do things like, for example, you're gonna draw back your bow when you can't see the animal, and then you're gonna step out to where you have a line of shot and release your shot. Because if you pull back your bow when the animal can see you, oftentimes they'll bust. So you need to have that window of opportunity. When the animal can't see you, you can draw back your bow and still maintain accuracy and form while having to sidestep a little bit, maybe duck down. Maybe you're ducked down and you're standing up to get your shot. So it's important to practice all those things in the field to get that accuracy on point as much as possible. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm going to be behind a tree where I can't see my target. I'm shooting slightly uphill. It looks to be about maybe 55 yards. I'm gonna go range it in a second. I'm gonna draw back when I'm behind a tree. So my line of vision, I can't see my target, draw back, and then sidestep to my right and take the shot. So let's see what I can do. So I'm gonna step back to my left where I can't see the target, draw my bow, and then step to the right till I have a clear line of sight. So it's really important too, when you're out here shooting, whether at an animal or a target, to take your eyes and follow the path that your arrow is gonna go. So a lot of times it's easy to get tunnel vision where you're so focused on the target, you forget to look at what's between you and the target. So I don't know if you can see it real well on the camera, but the two trees that I'll be shooting between, there's several sticks like coming off the trees. I have to make sure that my arrow's flight path is gonna clear those sticks. We've all had it where we were looking at an animal, We draw back our bow, we shoot, and boom, there's a stick halfway between that you didn't see. So take your eyes and look from, like, follow the flight path that the arrow will take between you and your target. So I'm gonna guess that's about 55, 56 yards. $52. Bullseye. Now I'm going to do the same thing as far as situational shooting, except I'm going to come from my knees. I'm going to draw back on my knees and then stand up and then take the shot. All right, the last thing I'm gonna go for today with the shooting is just shooting for distance. So I'm gonna guess that this is about 68 yards, 65 yards. Close, I was 70. So I'm at 70 yards. It's pretty far back there. I don't know if you can see it on this 35mm lens. I'm not gonna do anything fancy. I'm just shooting for distance, practicing my long range shooting. I would take a shot under the right circumstances at this range, maybe slightly longer, but that's about it. There's just so much room for error when you get these long range archery shots. So let's see what I can do. It's pretty cool. I was going to set the box up there, and there's some large deer tracks up on that hill. I'm in muley country up here, so it's cool to see that. So on my sight, my bottom pin is my floater. So when I'm shooting anything past 40, I've got my pin set to 20, 30, and 40 yards. So when I'm shooting past 40, I just roll my sight down, and my bottom pin is the pin that I'll use for aiming. I just rolled my sight down to 70 yards. See if I can make it happen. I heard it hit the target. I can't tell where it is, so we'll check it out when we get up there. Well, that sucks. One of my shots was low on the 50-yard mark. I flinched, and it looks like I hit a rock in the dirt. So that arrow's going in the trash. I felt the flinch on that one. I probably just lost an arrow. Let's go see. Not bad for 70 yards. That's a 3-inch circle in the middle, so it's decent. Not great, but not terrible. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was helpful watching me fail miserably at shooting. Now I'm pretty rusty. I haven't practiced enough this summer, so I got to get after it over the next couple months. So, important tip I want to leave you with. So I grew up playing basketball. And in my mind, shooting a basketball is similar to shooting a bow because it's the same fundamentals. It's form plus repetition plus consistency equals muscle memory. So add all those components together, and so you're creating muscle memory to where every time you draw that bow back, it's the same sequence of events. So it's the same breath pattern, the same anchor point when you pull back and you anchor on your cheek, the same rest point for your string when you come across your face. The tighter you can lock in that muscle memory, the far more accurate you're gonna be. And when you get in the field, it'll become second nature, where you're not thinking, you're putting yourself in a position where you've made the stock, you've gotten close within archery range of your animal, and when you pull that bow back, you don't have to think about it. That's the goal with archery. So good luck to you. Get out there and shoot, practice. Archery season's coming up. In fact, A-Zone Archery opener is in a few days. So good luck to all you A-Zone archery hunters, and we'll see you on the next video.